The summer of 2004 saw Alec McLeish as a Rangers manager under pressure. Martin O'Neill's Celtic had easily won the League and Scottish Cup double, with Rangers trophyless. And O'Neill's Celtic team had won every Old Firm game during the campaign, his bigger and more physically strong Parkhead team overpowering and outmuscling Rangers in the matches between the teams. The Rangers boss knew he had to make significant changes to get his team challenging again, and for him to keep his job. Many would leave Ibrox during the summer, some who had given Rangers excellent service, and others who had simply not been up to the task of bringing trophies to the club against the best Celtic team in a generation. Michael Moles, Ronald de Boer, and his brother Frank all departed at the end of their contracts. It was also the end for several players who had only joined the club in the previous 12 months. Nuno Capuccio, Henning Berg, and Emerson had failed to replace key players from the treble-winning campaign of 2003. And they left along with German midfielder Christian Nerlinger and Spanish star Mikel Arteta, who returned to his homeland to join Real Sociedad for a fee reported as just over £2.5 million. McLeish decided to reshape his team with a more physical and competitive type of player along the spine of the side. And he took advantage of the Bosman market to bring in a few highly regarded players on free transfers. Jean-Alain Boumsong, a 24-year-old French central defender who had already broken into the French national squad, was signed from Auxerre. Another centre-half was brought in too, the more familiar Marvin Andrews from Livingston. The Trinidad and Tobago international had impressed McLeish in the many matches he had played against Rangers for a team who had just won the League Cup the previous season. In midfield, the veteran Alec Ray was signed when his Wolves contract expired. A lifelong Rangers fan, Ray was 35 years old and nearing the end of his career. But his tough tackling and aggressive play for 14 years in English football with Millwall, Sunderland and Wolves was seen as bringing much needed bite into the engine room, along with his understanding of the club. Beside him, McLeish splashed out $1 million of the money received for Arteta on Red Star Belgrade's Dragan Mladenovic. The 28-year-old was a regular in the Serbian national team with a reputation for his passing ability. Up front, the arrival of Monaco's Croatian striker Dado Pusso was seen as a real coup for Rangers. A physical yet skillful centre-forward, he was brought to Rangers to lead the line and to bring experience and presence as well as goals. Pusso had been second top scorer in the Champions League competition the previous season and had played over 70 minutes in the final for Monaco against Porto. And McLeish decided to partner him up front with Nacho Novo, who was signed from Dundee for £600,000. Novo had already been wanted by O'Neill at Celtic, but immediately endeared himself to the Rangers fans by turning O'Neill down, declaring that Rangers were the bigger and the better club. In pre-season, the new-look team impressed. A brilliant overhead kick by Pusso gave Rangers a 1-0 win at Craven Cottage against Premier League Fulham. Then another English top-flight team were defeated, this time at Ibrox, with Tottenham Hotspur defeated 2-0. Rangers looked ready for the new season, and 2004-2005 would become one of the most memorable in club history.
Challenging well against Knight. Here's Purcell. Indications that he may be coming off shortly, so he's trying very hard to make an impression before he does so. That's Novo's cross. Chris Burke's header. What a brilliant goal by Purcell! What a goal that was. Well, he is just about to come up, I think, but what a finish that was.
My reaction straight away is just to laugh. A great guy, an unbelievable guy. Actually, when I get asked to come on, I had to go back and you're Googling certain things because I say my memory's terrible. And you see the squad, and I looked at the names and I actually looked at Celtic's squad and how we won the championship there. If you compare the two squads, I think is remarkable in itself. So I think if anybody looked at the two squads, you'd probably say they had the more quality, more experience. But then I actually looked at the names, and Marvin was one of them. And then you look at Fernando and you look at Barry and all these sorts of names. Just big characters. What the changing room needed at the time. And the recruitment was excellent because it's players that were bought for not a lot of money, but they brought real value to the squad. And Marvin was one of them who his personality was massive in the changing room. Massive. Great guy, but when it was time to train and time to play, he was somebody that you would back all day.
Nacho, listen, Nacho probably never had the proper quality. He had attributes that people had hated: pace, scored goals. He did have like ability. 1-on-1, he could beat somebody and score a goal. Sometimes a wee bit thick, but beside him and Dado together was sometimes unstoppable. I can remember, I don't know if you guys were there, but we played Roma that pre-season, and both of them absolutely destroyed Roma. Even that night as a team, we were brilliant, and that was only a pre-season game. And I think after that game, I think a few of the boys thought we've got a chance this season. Because if you can do that to them, you can do it to MD.
Dado's my favourite. He's one. If somebody says to me, "Who's your favourite player that you played with?" He was my number one. Again, I don't think we got him probably getting towards the tail end of his career. He's somebody that I think if you get him in his peak, he's an absolute monster. People always talk about mentality and character, and what is that? How do you define that? I would just draw a picture of him. He had everything that I would expect for a Rangers player. No matter the type of game, physical, technical, he's somebody that would just stand up to absolutely everything. But also in the changing room, he was, again, huge personality. And again, I don't know what the recruitment process was at that time, but whatever it was in terms of signing mentality and personality and character, they got it right with those two that we've spoke about.
The season did not start well. A goalless draw at Pittodrie on the opening day saw Rangers already fall behind Celtic. Then the team crashed out of the Champions League after losing 3-2 on aggregate to CSKA Moscow. The first Old Firm game of the season was at the end of August, and it ended with a 7th successive loss to their bitter rivals. Celtic fielded new signing Juninho as they grabbed a 1-0 win thanks to a late goal by Alan Thompson. Things then went from bad to worse, with dropped points in the next away game at Tynecastle, yet another uninspiring goalless draw. With a gap already growing to Celtic, the pressure on manager McLeish grew even worse when the team suffered a dismal 1-0 defeat in the UEFA Cup to FC Maritimo, who played in the Portuguese island of Madeira. The headlines, the phone-ins and the travelling fans all seemed to agree that time was almost up for the Rangers boss. And with the League Cup draw sending his team back to Pittodrie the following midweek, many were predicting the sack if McLeish saw another defeat in the cup tie. But Pittodrie marked the start of a great Rangers comeback and a wonderful unbeaten run in domestic football. A superb Fernando Rickson free kick stunned the Aberdeen support on the stroke of half-time. Then a late Stephen Thompson goal confirmed a vital 2-0 victory. A few days later, Novo scored his first league goals in a win at Dundee. Then in the midweek, Ibrox survived the nervous tension of a penalty shootout, with Vignal hitting home the winning spot kick to send Maritimo out and to qualify Rangers for the new league phase of the competition. And as Rangers kept on winning, Celtic faltered. Aberdeen hit an injury time winner to end Celtic's unbeaten home record in the league that had lasted over 3 years. And this came at a perfect time for Rangers, with Celtic their opponents in the League Cup quarter-final at Ibrox in early November. Despite Celtic taking an undeserved lead that night, a Purcell goal took the game to extra time. Towards the end of the first extra period, Rangers scored a wonderful breakaway goal through Shota Arveladze. The losing run in Old Firm games had been ended, and now it was Rangers with the confidence and the momentum. The next Old Firm game was just 10 days away, in the league and again at Ibrox. It was a day to remember for the Rangers support. A penalty dispatched by Novo and a towering Purcell header gave Rangers a 2-goal lead at half-time, against a Celtic team now down to 10 men, after the dismissal of midfielder Alan Thompson. Striker Chris Sutton was shown the red card in the second half for deliberate handball when already on a booking, and Rangers coasted to an easy win. Martin O'Neill then showed similar poor discipline as his players, as he gestured to the Celtic fans from the pitch after the final whistle. The following Sunday, Celtic dropped points in the early kick-off at Dens Park, meaning a Rangers win at Ibrox against Hearts would see McLeish's men move top of the league for the first time in well over a year. Nacho Novo scored twice in a thrilling 3-2 win, and the Rangers fans were now looking down on the rest. Their stay at the summit lasted just a week, a draw with Inverness seeing Celtic move back to the top. But this was now a genuine title race, and as 2004 drew to a close, Rangers kept the pressure up with a series of important wins. Bob Malcolm scored his first ever Ibrox goal in an easy victory over Dundee, before a vital Shota Avaladze strike sealed a nervy win at Kilmarnock. The headlines after this match were ones that the Rangers support did not like, with the news that their star defender Boomsong was the subject of a big money bid from Graham Souness at Newcastle. Rugby Park would be the last time Boomsong played in a Rangers shirt, and 2005 would begin with Rangers challenging for the title, but worried how they would fill such an important defensive hole in their team.
Played across there, and there's a header, yes! Novo has done it again! Fernando Rickson, Alposo. Played across there, and there's a header, yes! Novo has done it again! Good play by the substitute Stephen Hughes on the left-hand side. An exquisite little ball and no cover as that is put away.
New Year's Day 2005 saw the transfer of Boomsong confirmed, with Rangers receiving £8 million for the defender, who they had acquired for nothing just 6 months earlier. While representing an incredible profit, it meant the country's best defender in the first half of the season needed replaced. Tannadice was the venue for the New Year's Day game, and it was a day when the Rangers' unbeaten league run stretching back to August nearly ended. 1-0 down in injury time, it looked to those inside the ground as if goalkeeper Stefan Klos had grabbed an incredible equaliser, heading home a corner kick. TV replays would later show it had actually been Hamed Namuchi who had got the vital touch, but it didn't prevent the goalkeeper from being the centre of the celebrations. In the first week of January, the manager splashed out £2.5 million of the Boomsong money on Belgian attacking midfielder Thomas Buffel, and McLeish further strengthened his attacking options by bringing Serbian winger Bojan Djordjic in on a free transfer from Manchester United. He would make his debut in the red-hot atmosphere of a Scottish Cup tie at Parkhead, with Buffel named on the bench. With no replacement yet for Boomsong, Celtic's big physical front two of Sutton and Hartson both scored, and Rangers were slightly unlucky to lose 2-1. The league form remained consistent, however, with a crucial win over Aberdeen at Pittodrie in mid-January, a great confidence booster, with Purcell grabbing another important goal to add to his collection. By now, Greek central defender Sotirios Kyriakos had arrived on loan from Panathinaikos, and he would quickly establish himself as a reliable and effective defender. Rangers kept up their winning run in the league to sit within striking distance should Celtic slip, but their title hopes were dealt a severe blow in late January, with the news that club captain and inspirational goalkeeper Stefan Klos had suffered a season-ending knee injury in training. Young backup Alan McGregor started in the next game, an easy win over Livingston at Ibrox, but the manager felt that he needed a more experienced goalkeeper if the league title challenge was to be successful. As the January transfer window was drawing to a close, Manchester City backup goalkeeper Ronald Waterreus was brought in on an initial one-year deal. 34-year-old Waterreus was highly experienced, with 7 international caps for Holland and over a decade as PSV Eindhoven's first-choice stopper. And on that same night came the transfer that the Rangers support wanted most. Former club captain Barry Ferguson was brought back to the club from Blackburn Rovers for a fee of £4.5 million. A player who had never been truly replaced in the heart of the Rangers midfield, and who had led the team to the treble in 2003 before leaving that summer. January had been a roller coaster of emotions for the Rangers fans, with significant changes now in the playing squad. The loss of Klos seemed like a hammer blow, but the arrival of Ferguson gave the support great hope that glory in May was more possible than ever. Waterreus made his debut at Hampden in the League Cup semi-final against Dundee United, with Ferguson named as a substitute. He came on for the last 20 minutes in a memorable night, when Rangers crushed United 7-1. Waiting in the final would be Motherwell, managed by former Rangers captain Terry Butcher. On February 20th, Rangers travelled to Parkhead for a massive match in the title race, Celtic holding a 2-point lead and were strong favourites to extend that to 5. But Rangers were magnificent and won the match 2-0 to leave Parkhead with their first win in 5 years. Gregory Vignal was the unlikely scorer of the first goal, one that Celtic goalkeeper Rab Douglas would want to forget. The win was wrapped up by Novo, the Spaniard cleverly lobbing Douglas to send the Rangers support wild. 10 days later, another vital away win was secured at Tynecastle, thanks to an injury time penalty, coolly converted by Fernando Rickson. The Dutchman had been given the captaincy after the injury to Klose, and he showed he was able to handle the responsibility. It was a penalty award that was subject to a predictable response both in the media and from Parkhead, as the usual paranoia set in, with Rangers now top of the table. 2 points were thrown away at home to Inverness the following Saturday, with the race now too close to call. 3 points were secured in a nervous win at Dundee, thanks to 2 late goals, the first coming from a thumping Marvin Andrews header. But it was a day the big defender would remember for another reason. He suffered a serious knee injury in the closing minutes. That meant he missed the League Cup final, a match given special significance by being held close to the 10th anniversary of the passing of legendary Rangers and Motherwell winger Davy Cooper. The Cooper final saw his face printed on the tickets, and it saw Rangers coast to the first trophy of the season with a 5-1 demolition of the Fir Park team. Bob Malcolm replaced Andrews in central defence, and first-half goals from unlikely goal scorers Maurice Ross and Sotirios Kyriakos, along with another direct free-kick goal by Rickson, had the match sewn up by half-time. The Rangers fans enjoyed the post-match celebrations, but there was another trophy they wanted even more. As often happens when the run-in gets underway, there were some surprises. Celtic lost at home to Hearts to seemingly open the door to allow Rangers back in front. But Dundee United came to Ibrox in early April and stunned the home crowd with a smash-and-grab 1-0 win. By the time the league split, Celtic had a 2-point lead. But they still had to travel to Ibrox, and this massive clash was scheduled for the first fixture after the split. And there would be a massive boost for Rangers on the eve of the game. Marvin Andrews declared himself fit to play, despite suffering cruciate ligament damage to his knee just 6 weeks earlier. The player had unshakable religious faith and had recovered without surgery and purely using the power of his faith. Most were sceptical and disbelieving, but he took to the Ibrox pitch for the Old Firm match to a deafening roar. But not even Marvin could prevent Celtic winning, the on-loan Craig Bellamy scoring what proved to be the winner. With a 5-point lead and just 4 games to play, it looked like Celtic were now unstoppable and the title was theirs. Their fans gloated in the Blue Moon stand at the end of the match, with a banner telling the world they were champions again. And one of the biggest daily newspapers in the country proclaimed the next day that the race was now over. Rangers fans were left hoping for a miracle. The following weekend, the miracle was back on. Tony Mowbray's Hibs travelled to Parkhead and gave Celtic a well-deserved beating by 3-1. The next afternoon, Rangers travelled to Pittodrie for the 3rd time in league business in the season, thanks to the farcical nature of the league split. On a badly waterlogged pitch, the Dons were beaten 3-1 with a memorable double scored by Purcell. The gap was down to 2. And it stayed that way after both Rangers and Celtic won their next 2 games. On the penultimate weekend, Motherwell were easily beaten 4-1 at Ibrox, with Shota Arveladze scoring twice on his Ibrox farewell. But Celtic maintained their advantage by winning at Tynecastle. There was now just 1 weekend left, and with a 2-point lead, it was all in Celtic's hands. What a final day it would be.
The message very clearly to his team, and a serve! Marvin Andrews pressure has paid off, and it's the man from Trinidad who breaks the deadlock for Rangers. Fernando Rickson has the crucial task here. This could win the game for Rangers. It's Rickson against Gordon. It's a terrific penalty kick by Fernando Rickson. Quite magnificent in the circumstances. His composure was terrific. The accuracy of the kick was outstanding.
Aye, Ferguson again in the midfield, steps away from O'Donnell. Ross. It's a nice ball from Buffon, plays it through, Morris Ross skips it in! It's an unlikely first goal scorer for Rangers, and Morris Ross celebrates!
Sunday the 22nd of May 2005. Celtic travelled to Motherwell, knowing a win guaranteed them the championship. Rangers were at Easter Road, knowing that with their better goal difference, a win would snatch the title from Celtic if Martin O'Neill's men dropped any points. Alex McLeish named the same 11 players who had defeated the Fir Park side the previous weekend. With both games kicking off at the same time, the away end at Easter Road contained plenty of radios, with the score from Motherwell as important as the match they were watching. Marvin Andrews had told the fans to keep believing, although perhaps not everyone felt as optimistic. The game quickly developed into something of a stalemate, with chances few and far between. Nacho Novo hit a post in a rare opportunity, but the first goal of the day wasn't to be in Edinburgh, but in Lanarkshire. It was scored by Celtic's Chris Sutton, with the mood in the Rangers support now one of grim acceptance that miracles simply don't come along very often. The Celtic support, in contrast, were now having a party, as they had always expected. Rangers and Hibs continued to play out their game, but by half-time it remained goalless, and it seemed to lack the intensity of a potential title decider. Manager McLeish reminded his players at the interval that Celtic would be champions regardless of the result if Rangers didn't win. His players had to do their bit, then it was down to events they could not control. They couldn't and shouldn't leave the pitch regretting their failure on the day. The game had to be won. Just before an hour had been played, the breakthrough came. January signing Thomas Buffel cleverly created an opportunity for Novo, and the Spaniard's shot found the net with the aid of a slight deflection. The Rangers end behind the goal celebrated the goal. They knew that it had to be scored for there to be any hope. But most felt that it would not be enough, as time then ticked past. In a strange twist, Hibs needed to avoid a heavy defeat in order for them to qualify for European football. So Tony Mowbray instructed his players not to recklessly chase an equaliser. A 1-0 defeat would be good enough for them and their league ambitions. With Rangers now holding the lead they needed, the remainder of the game saw neither side commit men forward, the result suiting both teams and nobody willing to risk that changing. It meant the only important matter for the sport was to listen for events in Motherwell. And as both games reached the closing minutes, the Rangers' end was both resigned and quiet. Then came the miracle. In the final minutes of regulation time, and with the helicopter delivering the league trophy heading to Fir Park, everything changed. Motherwell striker Scott McDonald scored with a brilliant acrobatic shot. The Celtic players slumped to the ground. The Celtic fans were silenced. Meanwhile, the away stand at Easter Road erupted. Manager McLeish was given the news, and he looked to be in disbelief. Then a moment later came a second almighty roar. McDonald had scored again. It was now 2-1 to Motherwell, and Celtic were beaten. It was time for the helicopter to alter course and head for Leith. Celtic's players could not believe what had happened. They restarted the game with just a minute left, and them now needing 2 goals. O'Neill looked on from the sidelines, a man in shock, as he realised that Rangers were going to snatch a last-day title from him for the second time in 3 seasons. This would be his last ever league game in charge of Celtic, his reign ending in the most memorable of failures. Rangers had 1 minute of their match to play. They were now 60 seconds from glory.
Not read well there. Buffel gets it away again. Good play by Buffel. Nacho Novo in there, and it's in! Novo has scored for Rangers.
Anybody that was there will tell you the same thing. You feel it, the atmosphere changes. But again, for the what happens next is it's hard to put into words to describe how mad it was.
And I can remember getting a chap at the dugout. They went behind the dugout, and it was Billy Thompson, the old goalkeeper, coach, goalkeeper and goalkeeping coach, and David Lavery, who's still there now in the Masseur. Both of them used to always sit behind the dugout wherever we played. And he chapped the window and went, "Motherwell have scored." And we're like, "Aye, no worries." And he's like, "No, seriously, Motherwell have scored."
Alec McLeish looking for a miracle here, and he'll be thinking back to, well, a huge roar goes up in the stand, the Rangers stand here, and Motherwell, we are told, have scored. Well, this is absolutely remarkable. The Rangers fans are going mad here. Motherwell have scored against Celtic at Fir Park to make it 1 goal apiece. And McDonald, the scorer for Motherwell, will show you that goal as soon as we can. Suddenly, this goal could mean the championship for Rangers. Hooked away beyond the goalkeeper. And there's absolute bedlam here.
Well, just the game, the gaffer's like, concentrating us. And the second goal was made. It was the same again. He chapped the window, the dugout again. He's like, "It's 2-1 to Motherwell."
And then you get the second cheer and you've got absolutely no idea what's going on. You don't know if the game's finished or if it's another goal, and it's just mad. But at that point, there was staff, which they always do, and they still do. I think they sit behind the dugout. So they were trying to get as many messages onto the dugout as they possibly could, or onto the bench. But even that, people were telling you, "Oh, Motherwell scored." I'm not sure if I actually believed them at that point, because you're not 100% sure. And then in the end, when the final whistle goes and you get the complete confirmation that that's the result, then it's just bedlam, absolute bedlam. Especially for somebody like me and the other younger players. You're so young, but to have that experience is priceless.
Rangers have scrapped throughout the season to keep in touch. This will be remembered as one that Celtic let slip, not once but twice. The referee looks at his watch there. Alec McLeish is signalling here. Motherwell have scored again. McDonald again. It's Motherwell 2, Celtic 1. It's incredible. It's unbelievable. Look at the celebrations there. What a turnaround here this afternoon. You could never have imagined this. Rangers were happy just to keep possession, hoping for an equaliser. They haven't got one miracle, they've got two. And it looks as if Rangers are about to win a most unlikely championship. And it's all over. And Alec McLeish is swamped by his backroom staff.
The last minute at Easter Road was surreal. Some Rangers players had started celebrating when the game was still being played around them, with the fans behind the goal now ignoring the action on the pitch to enjoy a massive party. Referee Kenny Clark did then blow his whistle, to an explosion of joy on the pitch, in the stands and on the team bench. Manager, substitutes and backroom staff all ran onto the pitch in sheer delight. Meanwhile, the man who had predicted this championship miracle, and who had undergone his own medical miracle, dropped to the turf in thanks. This iconic Marvin Andrews image is one of the most famous photographs from a legendary day. At Fir Park, Celtic were distraught, some players looking close to tears as the enormity of their loss sunk in, and many wearing green in the Fir Park stands openly wept. Meanwhile, in thousands of living rooms, there were Rangers fans laughing at their tears. And one of their old heroes, Motherwell boss Terry Butcher, was more than happy to pose for press pictures alongside goal hero McDonald, thoroughly enjoying his part in this day of Celtic misery. The scenes at Easter Road could not have been more different. Players and fans celebrated together, and it took a few minutes for the pitch to be cleared to allow the presentation to take place, once the helicopter had arrived, of course. Skipper Rickson raised the championship trophy aloft to a deafening roar. Rangers had won their 51st league title, and one that nobody present could ever forget. The man who will always be most closely associated with this remarkable day was the incredible Marvin Andrews, a player who had defied medical science and whose unwavering belief was summed up in the t-shirt he chose to wear for the presentation of the trophy. Nobody wanted the day to end, with scenes of joy captured forever by the press photographers on the pitch and many a mobile phone in the crowd, as the players took it in turns to show off the league trophy and pose for more pictures. The banner in the Rangers end summed it all up. Keep believing would always be the two words associated with the miracle of Helicopter Sunday. The team eventually made their way back to Ibrox, the party continuing aboard the team bus. And at the stadium, tens of thousands were inside, those who hadn't been lucky enough to get a ticket for Easter Road, all desperate to share their joy with the team. One man was missing, however. Marvin Andrews had left Easter Road by car to head for his church, where he would be giving thanks for a historic day. The day the helicopter changed direction.
He has the medal to prove success. So warm congratulations all round. It really has been one of the most remarkable afternoons. The Hibs fans celebrated just before this. Let's not forget it's a big day for Hibs and Tony Mowbray. They took their lap of honour past their excited supporters. They finished third today and they have European football to look forward to. They have a young team. There's not so much a youngster there, Alec Ray, now 35 years of age. And he's another year of his contract to go. Nacho Novo. Well, the goals had dried up towards the end of the season, but he made a vital contribution today because it was his shot that was deflected into the back of the net to give Alec McLeish such a happy day. So to a man, the Rangers fans have stayed in the stand as you would expect, just in front of the Rangers players. Quite a number of Hibs fans have stayed behind as well to enjoy their day. And the manager receives his medal. Jan Wouters is there as well. He just signed a new one-year contract. Who knows, the happenings of today might mean longer contracts all round. Remember, Alec McLeish was in fairly serious depths at one point earlier in this season, but he's managed to claw his way back. Won the League Cup, matched Celtic in terms of the Old Firm games, but it looked as though he'd be undone by other matches until the final minutes this afternoon. Rangers had done what they had to do. They needed a miracle from elsewhere, and Motherwell produced not just one goal for them, but two. And Rangers are champions of Scotland. I've seen a lot of these final days, and this one will certainly be up there with the rest of them in terms of the intensity, the sheer drama. And Shot Avaladze in the foreground there was certainly one of the star performers this afternoon. Fernando Rickson needing a bit of a help up. It's a very heavy trophy, but he'll manage it. Rangers champions for the 51st time. So Barry Ferguson held the trophy as captain 2 years ago. Fernando Rickson has it today. And Alec McLeish, with Andy Watson and Jan Wouters, will have, I suspect, the mother of all parties tonight, as will these supporters here and the ones watching on television around the world. And the champions anthem sounds around Easter Road.
I always remember the bus on the way back. That I've always been the same. I wasn't the one for on the pitch stuff. I always tried to stay in the background, whether I was playing, no involved. I just used to like to stay. But as soon as you got on the bus, when it was just you, the players and the staff, that's the bit that I liked. And and there's obviously a couple of videos floating about your dad singing and all that sort of stuff. So that's the bit that I loved the most. But again, being one of the younger ones in the changing room, you don't want to overstep the mark and get a wee bit too excited. We probably did later on, but as I say, the bit I probably enjoyed the most was getting on the bus and getting back to Ibrox with the trophy. That was probably the best part for me, and it always has been.
How did you begin to celebrate?
Where you will go, I will show you.
Another wee dance maybe?
You will see the music there. Champagne, it's for the woman. For the boys, for the men.
What do men drink?
Milk. Any danger? I love you, Shota. Stay in danger, Shota. We will follow Rangers. If they go take Dublin, we will follow. They're not a team like the Glasgow Rangers. No, not one, and there never shall be one. Celtic know all about their trouble. Champions, champions,
It's been the best possible first season for you, is it not?
how you say I have a goosebumps? How you say? Unbelievable. When the fans are, I know it was 1-1 and it was terrible. It was terrible.
Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyde Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited and CSD Air Conditioning, along with Art of Gold. Thank you for listening or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.